Welcome back. This is Kirsten from JK Fiber Arts. We're going to pick up where we left off at the last video and start spinning the singles for this Fractal 2-ply. The next thing you want to decide is what thickness of yarn you want to spin. I think for this I'm going to try to go for a worsted, which is going to end up being, there's a bunch of different rolls on this, but 1.5 was something that works for 2-ply. So if I want a WPI 9 yarn, I would multiply by 1.5, and that should give me a decent single. This is actually a 2-ply I just did, and I was going for a worsted weight, and it ended up being a little bit thicker. It was the first time I tried the 1.5, and I think it did give me yarn that was a little bit thicker than I wanted. It's still going to be beautiful for purpose, but historically I'm spinning about an 18 single to get a worsted weight yarn. This is probably a little thicker than that. I think this ended up being like a 8-ish, 7-ish, somewhere in there, but it's still going to be pretty. So I'm going to shoot for singles of 18 WPI and a applied yarn of 9. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the first single here. I'm going to be spinning a worsted weight single, so I am using the fatter end of the bobbin for the double drive band, and that's going to give me a ratio that will not give me as much twist. It'll twist a little slower, and then I'll adjust my draw so that I get it the way I want it. And then as far as the whirls, on my regular whirl, you have a small and a large option. I'm going to go in the large. The tools that you need when you sit down to spin are your orifice hook and your handy dandy spinning tool, so that I can check periodically to make sure that I have my single where I want it. I have my fiber on my left on the floor in my bowl, and I'm spinning with the light end. You're making sure that you're spinning from the same end to end, so we're not reversing anything on this. I like to spin my singles Z, so I'll be spinning clockwise. And again, this Rambouillet, it's really springy. So even though it looks like I'm going to be spinning it fairly thin here, when I stop and let go, it's gonna poof a fair amount here. So let's see what we have. Actually, let's put a little bit more on first, and we'll go from there. I'm gonna adjust my draw a little bit. I want it to draw a little bit faster. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna check my single here, and I'm shooting for around an 18, and I'm probably sitting 20 at the moment, but again, the Rambouillet is pretty springy, so I am okay with 20 if that's going to be the consistent spin. So at this point, I'm gonna do a little ply back test. What I do is I'm going to let this go the whole way onto the bobbin just so I get all the twist that's going to be on it when it's on the bobbin. I'm going to pull it out, I'm going to pinch it, and then I'm going to fold it over, and I'm going to let it go. And this is going to give me a representation of what my ply is going to look like. And I do this for all of my singles just so I have an idea where I'm at. And then I'm just checking to see what my degree of twist is here. So I probably want a little more twist and a little more consistency. So let's continue on. I'm not going to make that my sample one yet. So I know I want it to be just a bit thicker, so I'm just gonna do a little short backward draw here. And let's stop and take a look at this one. And again, I'm shooting for 18, and again, I'm still around 20. I think 20 is just gonna be my default here because it's a nice consistent 20. So let's let that on. And here's what we got. And that looks a lot better. I put a little more twist in it, so you can see that it looks much nicer than it did at the first sample. So what you can do is that I just break this off and tie it in a knot, and then you'll have a nice little sample to look at and a reference back to while you're spinning. So here is my little test ply back here, and check my angle. Yeah, that's more of a 30 degree. I usually go for 30 degrees, so that's pretty darn close to 30. So I like it. That's what we're gonna make it. So I'm gonna just put this back on here and continue on. So I like to do the hot dog technique here. So when I join, I just have this end. It's loose, not much twist on it. This is coming from the top, and I just overlap them. And then what I do here is when I start spinning, I'm just gonna pull it, and these fibers will grip together. So, like that. I think we're off and running. And I keep adjusting my tension until I find what I like here. I usually less tension I prefer. Oh, there we go. I like this tension. It has to do with the feel and how it feels like it's. I want it to go onto the bobbin smoothly, but I don't want it to be yanking it out of my hand. I also want to have enough time that I can get the twist I want without it trying to draw it in out of my hand. Little slub there. I just pull those off when I come to them. It's like a little felted bit. I'm liking this 20, and I think it's going to give us a beautiful worsted weight yarn. Let's see what my ply back looks like here. Let's put the whole way on first. Let's be consistent. Yes, see, now we have everything dialed in. Now it's consistent. Oh, it's pretty. That's going to be a beautiful, beautiful yarn. And so you can see the difference. Now I can pull out my first one, which was here. And it's not bad, the first one, but I did say that I wanted more twist in it. And you can see the difference in these two here. And this one is just spot on perfect. And this one needed a little bit more twist. You can see the difference. That's why you do the ply back. The ply back is, in my opinion, the single most important way to help determine that you get the yarn you want at the end of the process. So now I can stick this under here and see if we end up with a worsted weight yarn. I should be around a 9. And you don't want to pull it, you just want to lay it on there. Yep, that is like spot on 9. I hope you can see that. I am very happy with that. That is where we're gonna live. So I am going to spin this. So when I finish this nest, I'm just gonna go right on to the next nest and just make sure that you spin it in order. I was reviewing the video and realized that my son told me that he had everything on focus and you can't see my backhand for the entire time. So I'm just gonna do a little quick thing here to show you what I mean when I'm doing this short backward draft. And my short backward draw here. One thing that I did do since I last videoed this was I gave up on trying to treadle slower. I switched my ratio back to a higher twist. So I'm just gonna keep this closer to the orifice for my short backward draw here. All right, let's take a peek here and see how that is spot on 20 now. And let's just check our twist. And here is our little ply back test, and I like that. Let's make sure we're staying consistent on the 9-ish. Actually fits right in the groove. But that's all there is to it. What you will see is on the bobbin now, you can kind of get a sense for the color repeats. So the color repeats on this one are going to be shorter than when I spin the half fiber, which will have a much longer repeats on it. Ooh, that's a big fat blob. Did you see that? There we go. Show you my bobbin here, and you can see that color change from the blue to green to gray. Now when I spin the straight half, you'll see the difference on the bobbin. It'll be a lot larger color blocks. I'm doing the second part of this 2-ply fractal spin, and this is going to be the other single for this, which we showed in the earlier video. So we're gonna get started here. So I'm just gonna get this started and we'll check it, and just like we check everything when I get started, make sure I find the right rhythm here. I had this little bit on the top, so I'm just trying to work this in. I'm gonna join it with this other piece. There we go. That seems to be good. Okay, let's see what we have here. And this is, we want 20, and that's 20, good. We'll do our little ply back test. So they all go onto the bobbin, pull it out, fold it over. I like that, it looks good. That's a 9. This looks like worsted weight to me. And I'm going to just, you'll see the difference here because the color repeats are going to be much longer. So that when this gets plied together, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. You'll have the long repeats with the shorter color repeats interspersed, and that prevents something called pooling. Fractal helps you when you're knitting, so that you don't have, it's like the puddle of color, so that it equally distributes the color throughout your work. The most annoying part for me is having to move my hook every time so that I get a nice evenly loaded bobbin. If you let this part get too fat, it'll start to slip off and then it gets all loose on here. And it still works fine, I don't like it. I try to have my bobbins look pretty. So you move those hooks to fill in all the spaces as best you can. Want to have energy in the singles. If you don't have enough energy, when you ply it, it's going to break a lot and be frustrating. So if you're ever trying to 2-ply or 3-ply or chain ply is the worst, the yarn keeps breaking, your single keeps breaking, it probably didn't have enough twist in it. So if I don't have enough twist when I go to ply, then the yarn is going to snap, and it's just frustrating, and you don't get that beautiful finished yarn that has the strength to it that you maybe want, especially if you're thinking about weaving, which is a whole nother thing. We can talk about that another time. Of course, here we go again with the hook. I can't wait until the auto level winder comes out for this wheel. I have the auto level winder for my Sonata, and I love that thing, only I think I broke it, so I have to send it back in. I may have just overused it during Tour de Fleece. And there was a part that got loose, and I did not recognize that it was loose, and then by the time I realized that something was wrong, it's kind of like letting that sound in your car go, and it was an important sound that you shouldn't have ignored. That's kind of like what happened to me. So now I have to send it back in so they can fix it. I have my finished 2 singles here from the Eating Grapes Off the Wall paper 2-ply. You can very easily see which one was spun the 8 nests. You can see my color repeats are short. And then on this one, you can see the color repeats are very long. It looks really good. I think this is going to look really pretty. So I'm going to apply these 2 together. I'll show you how we do that, and then we'll see the final yarn.